Jacob Fatu didn't even make it through the parking lot. He hadn't even walked through the arena doors. He hadn't laced his boots. He hadn't gotten a single second to mentally prepare for what was supposed to be his night. And Drew McIntyre? Drew McIntyre didn't care. Drew McIntyre was already waiting for him. Before Smackdown even went on the air, before the pyro, before the music, before a single fan in that arena could even settle into their seat, Drew McIntyre had already smashed Jacob Fatu's car windshield with his bare hands, dragged him through the shattered glass, and was beating the absolute life out of him on the hood of that car like a man who had completely lost his mind. Fatu was busted open, bleeding from the forehead. Security was sprinting through the parking lot. Kenny Dykstra, a Backstage producer, was physically trying to pry them apart. And none of it was enough. None of it could stop Drew McIntyre. And here's what I need you to understand before we go any further, because this is what is going to make you furious. This is what had me pacing around my room. This is the thing that WWE has been quietly building to for months, and it all exploded in one singular, violent, earth-shattering night in Raleigh, North Carolina. Drew McIntyre believes with every fiber of his being that he was robbed. Not just of a title. Not just of a moment. He believes he was robbed of his destiny. And when a man like Drew McIntyre, a man who has scraped and clawed and bled through over 15 years in this industry, when that man snaps, when that man decides that the rules no longer apply to him, nobody is safe. Not Jacob Fatu. Not Nick Aldis. Not anyone. Let's break down exactly what happened on Smackdown March 20th, 2026, and more importantly, let's talk about what this means for WrestleMania 42, because I promise you, by the end of this video, you are going to have a very strong opinion about which side of this war you are on. Drop it in the comments right now before we even get into it. Are you Team Drew, or are you riding with the Samoan werewolf? Because this feud just became the most dangerous thing on Smackdown. Let's get into it. Segment 1: The Parking Lot Ambush Breakdown. So let's set the scene properly, because the way this Smackdown opened was cinematic, and I don't use that word lightly. The show kicks off, and the very first thing the cameras cut to is Jelly Roll. Yes, the Jelly Roll stepping out of his car in the arena parking lot. He looks confused. He's standing there looking around like something is off. And then the camera pans, and you see a wave of security guards and WWE officials sprinting past him, full speed, like something has gone terribly wrong. Jelly Roll just watches them go by with a look on his face that basically said, "I did not sign up for this." And then the camera finds the car. Drew McIntyre had positioned himself in that parking lot before Fatu even arrived. He waited. He was patient in the way that only truly dangerous people can be: patient, cold, calculated, burning with rage underneath a still surface. The moment Jacob Fatu's vehicle pulled in, McIntyre moved. And he moved like a man who wasn't thinking about consequences anymore. He broke the windshield. Not cracked it, broke it. With his hands. And then he reached through that shattered glass, grabbed Jacob Fatu, and pulled him out. Fatu was immediately bleeding from his forehead. This wasn't a worked blade job, people. This was the chaos of the moment, the glass, the violence, all of it coming together in a way that made this feel like something real, something ugly, something that made you sit forward in your seat and go, "Wait, is this actually happening right now?" McIntyre then proceeded to pound Fatu's head into the hood of that car, over and over. Headbutts, punches, pure, unhinged aggression. It took a small army of referees and security personnel to pull him away. Multiple people. And even as they dragged him back, McIntyre wasn't done talking. He was screaming. He was pointing. He wanted more. Now here's the thing that people need to stop glossing over: this attack didn't happen in the ring. It didn't happen during a match. This happened before the show. This was premeditated. Drew McIntyre planned this. He drove to that arena, he found out when Fatu was arriving, he went to that parking lot, and he waited. That's not a hot-headed guy losing his temper. That's a calculated man who has decided that if the system isn't going to give him what he deserves, he is going to take it by any means necessary. Tell me in the comments, is that terrifying to you, or is that the most compelling thing Drew McIntyre has ever done? Because I know which way I'm leaning. Segment 2: McIntyre on the mic, the promo that should win awards. After security finally managed to drag him away from Fatu's bleeding body in the parking lot, Drew McIntyre walked into that arena and grabbed a microphone. And what he said, the way he said it, this is the stuff that makes you remember why Drew McIntyre is one of the best talkers in all of professional wrestling when the emotional stakes are real. He said the only place he should be competing right now is the main event of WrestleMania. Not a mid-card match. Not a consolation prize. The main event. The grandest stage of them all. And he said Jacob Fatu took that from him. He looked straight into the camera and said that if anyone has wronged Drew McIntyre, they belong to him now. And he meant it. You could feel it. But then Nick Aldis came out. And this is where I need you to pay attention, because the Aldis confrontation added a completely different layer to this entire story. Aldis stepped to McIntyre and called him, and I want you to really hear this, the most self-sabotaging person he has ever known in this industry. He told him that with everything he had done that night, he was on the highway to unemployment. He threatened to fire him. Right there. On live television, with the whole world watching. And Drew McIntyre? Drew McIntyre didn't flinch. He told Aldis that this pressure, this corporate interference, this attempt to put a leash on him, this is exactly why people want him to quit. And then he said quitting would be too easy. And then, and this is the line that sent me, he looked at Nick Aldis and told him that his son Donovan should be ashamed to have a corporate stooge for a father. The arena went nuclear. That was a deeply personal shot. That was a man who no longer has any respect for the institutional authority of WWE management. That was a man who is operating completely outside the boundaries of what is considered acceptable. And rather than make you want to boo him, it somehow makes you understand him more. Because everything Drew is doing, every bridge he's burning, every line he's crossing, it all traces back to one wound. He had the title. He had the main event of WrestleMania. And it was taken from him. Can you blame him for being this way? Seriously, I want to know. Drop your honest take in the comments. Because this is genuinely one of the most compelling character arcs in WWE right now, and I feel like half the wrestling world is sleeping on it. Segment 3: The war continues. Fatu hits back. Now you might think, okay, Drew attacked Fatu in the parking lot, Fatu is busted open and bleeding, McIntyre addressed the crowd, story over for the night. They'll have a match and we'll move on. Wrong. Jacob Fatu got medical attention, wiped the blood from his face, and then he went hunting. Because that's who Jacob Fatu is. He is not a man who sits in a trainer's room and waits for the pain to pass. He is not a man who files a complaint and lets management sort it out. He is a Samoan werewolf. And you do not crack that man open and expect him to stay down. You just don't. The cameras caught a backstage segment involving the MFTs, the most feared tag team, where out of seemingly nowhere, Jacob Fatu came swinging in, grabbed Drew McIntyre, and threw him hard into a metal shutter backstage. The sound of that impact echoed. For a moment, it looked like Fatu had turned the tide, like justice was being served, like the man who had been ambushed in the parking lot was going to get his revenge. But then McIntyre recovered. And this time, it was Fatu who got the worst of it. McIntyre got the better of the exchange and left Fatu down again. 2 separate attacks in one night. 2 separate instances of these men being completely incapable of being in the same building without trying to destroy each other. Security couldn't stop it. Management couldn't stop it. The physical layout of the building itself couldn't stop it. And the night wasn't even finished. Later in the show, with Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga having a tense conversation about the direction of the bloodline, an incredible moment in its own right, Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu came flying past them, brawling into the truck entrance area of the arena. Just completely out of control. McIntyre went for Fatu's eyes at one point. This was no longer wrestling. This was a street fight that just happened to have cameras around it. And then, and I need you to really picture this, Jacob Fatu came out during McIntyre's match at ringside, launched himself into the air, and put Drew McIntyre through the commentary table with a diving splash from the apron. McIntyre went through wood and monitors. The announce team scattered. The crowd erupted. And Fatu stood over him, covered in his own blood and McIntyre's consequences, and looked like the most dangerous man on planet Earth. This is the part where you should be losing your mind. Because the question is no longer if these two collide at WrestleMania 42. The question is whether either of them will be left to make it there. Segment 4: The scaffold, the moment that changed everything. Okay, we need to talk about how this night ended. Because it went to a place that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. After everything that had already happened. After the parking lot ambush. After the backstage brawl. After the commentary table destruction. After Nick Aldis threatening to fire him. After all of that chaos and carnage that spanned an entire arena in Raleigh, North Carolina, Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu ended up on a scaffold. Cameras caught backstage officials scrambling, running toward an elevated structure somewhere in the rafters of that arena. And when the footage cut to what was happening, it showed McIntyre and Fatu still fighting, still refusing to stop on a scaffold high above the arena floor. Both men dangling over the edge. Officials below, completely helpless, unable to reach them in time. The situation had gone from violent to life-threatening in a matter of moments. WWE's own cameras captured it. The image of 2 men suspended over what could have been a catastrophic fall, neither of them willing to let go, neither of them willing to stop it, burned itself into your brain. This is what obsession looks like. This is what happens when a rivalry stops being about championships and titles and win-loss records and becomes about something far more primal. Something personal. Something that you can't put a name to, but you absolutely recognize when you see it. Both men survived. Both men came down. But the message was sent louder than any promo, louder than any match result, louder than any GM threat or corporate warning could ever be. This is not over. This will not be over until WrestleMania 42. Segment 5: The bigger picture, why this feud is special. I want to zoom out for a second and talk about why this specific rivalry has hit differently than almost anything else on Smackdown in a long time. Because it's not just about the violence, though the violence is off the charts. It's about what these two men represent. Drew McIntyre represents the veteran, the man who has given everything to this company, who came back from being fired, rebuilt himself from scratch, became a two-time WWE champion, carried Monday Night Raw during the pandemic to empty arenas and became one of the most iconic performers of his generation in doing so. And yet here he is, on the wrong side of a management decision, watching his WrestleMania main event moment get ripped away, losing control of everything because the system keeps failing him. Jacob Fatu represents the new blood, the Samoan werewolf. A man with an almost supernatural athletic ability, a man who can do things in that ring that defy logic given his size. A man who came from prison, from struggle, from circumstances that would have broken most people, and forged himself into one of the most terrifyingly gifted performers in WWE today. He is not afraid of Drew McIntyre. He is not afraid of the moment. He is not afraid of anything. Two different generations. Two different stories. Two men with legitimate reasons to want to destroy each other. And a WrestleMania stage that is perfectly sized for the war they are about to have. Now let me ask you something, and I genuinely want the debate in the comments below. Does Drew McIntyre come out of WrestleMania 42 as a conquering hero who finally gets the redemption he's been screaming for? Or does Jacob Fatu cement himself as the new face of Smackdown by ending the Scottish Warriors' rampage on the grandest stage of them all? Because I have a take. And it's going to make some of you very angry. Segment 6: The Take. Drew McIntyre is not going to win at WrestleMania 42. I know. Before you close the tab, hear me out. Drew McIntyre losing at WrestleMania would be the single most compelling storytelling move WWE could make right now. Here's why. Everything McIntyre is doing, the paranoia, the destruction, the burning of bridges, the parking lot ambushes, the scaffold brawls, the shots at Nick Aldis's family, this is a man who is slowly dismantling himself. He is so consumed by what he believes he deserves that he is destroying the very things that would help him get there. A man that unhinged doesn't walk into WrestleMania and find peace. He walks in and finds the consequences of 6 months of chaos. Jacob Fatu winning at WrestleMania would be the culmination of an extraordinary journey. It would announce to the entire wrestling world that the Samoan werewolf is not a transitional act, not a supporting character in someone else's story. He is the story. He is the future. And the beautiful thing? McIntyre losing doesn't end his arc. It fuels it. It sends him even further into the darkness. And that version of Drew McIntyre, the one who has lost everything, the one with nothing left to lose, is the most dangerous Drew McIntyre that has ever existed. You want to disagree with me? Good. That's what the comments section is for. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me Drew walks out of WrestleMania 42 with his hand raised and Fatu on the mat. Build the case. I want to read every single argument. And while you're down there, if this breakdown hit different, if you learned something, if you felt something watching this, share this video. Because this feud deserves more eyes on it. This is the kind of wrestling storytelling that reminds you why you fell in love with this product in the first place. And the more people talking about it, the louder the conversation gets. Outro. March 20th, 2026 will be remembered as the night Drew McIntyre stopped caring about the rules. A parking lot ambush. A busted open Jacob Fatu left bleeding on the hood of a car. A promo that threatened management's authority to their face. A backstage brawl. A commentary table destroyed. A scaffold. Two men hanging over the edge, literally and figuratively, with WrestleMania 42 looming on the horizon like a reckoning. This is war. And we are just getting started. I'm Ring Rumble 1. Subscribe if you aren't already. Drop your WrestleMania prediction in the comments. And I'll see you in the next one.